This season turn it up to 10. Sorta like a bad habit, we gon' do it again. Ready or not, we're gonna tie up some men. Go tell the 36, try to grab all the friends. We're back like we never left. On track like a treble clef. Skip a beat on the 7th rest. Bring feast, we don't pass them over. We got the first fruits, no way to show us. This yoke is easy, this burns light. Even with a loud mouth trying to eat at the mic. Even if we down south, the humidity spike. Veils torn in two, so we gon' be alright. Don't stop, they're in need of it though. Through grace by faith, they could easily grow. New wave, new age, new way to see bro. Now one truth, life, one way to his throne. Can't live on that bread alone. Every word of God's mouth will fuel me on. That's scripture, that's Christ alone. That's grace alone, that's faith alone. All glory to God, cause that's his alone. Since the lamb's been slain, we can each belong. The Lord is my strength, my peace, and my song. Yet I'll lay it all down at the feet of his throne. So relax, got it still in control. He knows every care, every fear that you hold. He knows every hair, every need for your soul. Nothing new around here, this story's been told. I'm just saying there's a time in the season you gotta be a Berean. If you just hear and believe it, you could be walking with demons. It could be rendering Caesar. All the things that go to God, that's a little like treason. Wait, welcome back my friends. Did you ever really think we could pass the 10? Our socks up, we about to trend. Cause the whole 36 wanna rap again. Wait, sounds too good to be true. Like rabbinic candy land, ain't no ladders, just shoot. We hold true if it's loaded in the cannon. Best believe it's understanding, if it's not it ain't proof. Like sacred name of the 2-house frame. He gets something tickle, then you fill it in the blanks. It's hide and seek, let's see if you can find out all the little messages you hit before the timeout. Ever seen a scholar with a blue belt? I have, he's about to make your food melt. The loud one and he strikes again, but don't let him close range, he gon' bite your friends. So relax, got it still in control. He knows every care, every fear that you hold. He knows every hair, every need for your soul. Nothing new around here, this story's been told. I bet you feel weak and your life is in tatters. With Bruce Street, your body is battered. You can't reach, trying to climb up that ladder. Sit back and hold fast till Messiah matters.
Yeah, shalom and welcome to Messiah Matters. This is episode 537. I am your host. My name is Caleb Hegg. We're going to have fun today. Man, I've been waiting for this show for a long time. I have been told not to do this show. I've been asked by people to wait. I have good friends who their go-to Bible is in Et Cepher. And we have new friends that really lean on the Et Cepher, and you know it's a thing that's gaining popularity. So David Wilber recently came out with a video, as in 2024, so it was over a year ago, but came out with a video on the Et Cepher. And the question is he right? Is David Wilber right? I was thinking about having the title of this be like, David Wilber can't be right about the Et Cepher, can he? Right? Some clickbaity stuff. I don't really do clickbait a whole lot, so I guess not. Anyway, welcome everybody in the chat room. And welcome everyone watching this later. I have a feeling that this kind of topic is one of those topics that you're not really going to get a whole lot of, like, there's going to be the base people who watch this show that are really going to like it, and that's going to be about it. I don't think a lot of people, in the interwebs are going to come and be like, yeah, I want to check this out. But you never can tell. So we're going to do it anyway. Okay, before we get started, hey, if you want to yell at me about what you agree or disagree with me on, that's totally fine. You can do so through email. Yell through your keyboard. chegg@torahresource.com, chegg@torahresource.com, 253-465-3205. That's the comment line. You can literally yell at me if you want to. On the comment line. I listen to every single message that comes in, believe it or not. Find past shows and get some merch, messiahmatters.com. We're going to have a new season coming up here, I think next week. I could be wrong. I don't know. Should I make new music? I just start, like, the music that you just heard, that intro is actually, it's only been used like, I don't know, maybe 6 months tops. So is it really time for new music? I don't know. I'm debating. It could just be artwork this time that we change. Anyway, I've seen the producer art, the winter producer art already. It's good. And so, yeah, you're going to want to check it out. TorahResource.com. Hey, go to Torah Resource, find pretty much anything you could ever want when it comes to biblical research stuff, right? I mean, the library. Okay, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. Okay, if you're a podcast person, if you like listening to music on the go, man, we got a project that we are working on in the library. So I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know if it's going to work just like with a normal TR Learning Center library membership or whatnot, but we got rights to all of the Evangelical Theological Society's annual meetings recordings from 2004 through 2019. And we're going to put them up in the library. So, I mean, you're talking about like Walter Keicher, you're talking about John Piper, you're talking, I mean, like all these guys, right? And scholars who are going to agree on all sorts of stuff, and scholars who are going to disagree. It's going to be amazing, okay? I mean, I don't know if thousands of hours is the right term. It's at least lots of hundreds of hours of audio. And the trick is just getting it all in there, right? And cataloging all of it and making it so it's accessible. Anyway, we've had rights to it for a while, but now is the time for us to put it in there. So anyway, if that's something that interests you, be looking forward to that. That's a major project. Could take a year, could take years, who knows, but get excited. I'm pumped. I'm also working on the complete Messianic Siddur still. That's a project I hope to have out in 2026. Anyway, all these projects, if you want to help support them, TorahResource.com. That's where you go. Last but not least, do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Really does help. Yeah, you should subscribe now. Okay, so the Et Cepher. Now, I want to give a couple of preliminary just comments here. Number one, I don't want to be nitpicky, right? I feel like sometimes when people look at Bible translations, it feels a little nitpicky, like, okay, does it really matter if it's like, I don't know, like this little word is changed and whatnot. And this happens in translations, right? Within translations, you're gonna have differences. Obviously, that's what it is, right? It's a different translation. Now we'll talk about the Et Cepher and whatnot here in a few seconds, but just in terms of Bible translation in general, that's what we're looking at when we're looking at translations is differences, right? That's what it is. It's a translation. There has to be some liberty there. And so I don't want to be super nitpicky. Like, for instance, what was it last week? We looked at, Rob and I looked together at just some of the differences between the Catholic ESV, like the ESV Catholic edition, as opposed to the Protestant edition. And there were some, like in terms of translation themselves, there were some minor differences. And yeah, do I agree with them? Probably not. But at the same time, like, let's not be super nitpicky. Like they changed one verse that was pretty egregious, but okay, like they have the right to do that, right? Of course, the Apocrypha is in there. And okay, like that's, I like a Bible that has an Apocrypha in it every once in a while so you can look and see what people are talking about. Okay, like I'm not opposed to that. But it's a little bit hard not to, like, there's so many small things and just so many like head scratching things when it comes to the Et Cepher. It's hard not to just be like, what is happening here? Okay, so let's not go there. Let's start with what the Et Cepher is. So the Et Cepher itself is a Bible. You can find it online at the Et Cepher, and they spell it weird, okay? And once again, this is not to be nitpicky, but I'm going to show you, like, so they spell Cepher within Jewish tradition. Like, first of all, there is a transliteration history, okay? And there is a standardized transliteration, and there's variations of standardized transliteration. For instance, and I'll give you a good example of this, Torah Resource uses our own version of transliteration, which my father he created his version of transliteration back in like the late 80s, right? Now, it's been standardized like pretty much across the board within scholarship, but it's a little convoluted. When I went to Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, they taught us like this is transliteration of Hebrew, and this is how you do it. And it was a little bit odd. Some of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I digress, right? That like, okay, so there is a standardized. I've never seen the word Cepher used with a C. Now, once again, I'm not trying to be nitpicky here, and let's give grace here, okay? You know, maybe the Et Cepher people were like, hey, we want to change it a little bit so that, so that it looks different, or it's different than when you search it. You're not going to get Cepher the way that it's normally spelled. We like want it for marketing reasons or whatever. Okay, maybe that's what they did, and hey, that's okay too, right? People do that kind of stuff all the time. However, I'm going to show you some stuff here in just a second. It's like, is that really what they did, or like what's going on here? So first of all, let's talk about what the Et Cepher is. The Et Cepher is a Bible. You can find it online. It's ranges about $95 to $100. It's an expensive book. It's actually quite expensive. If you're going to drop $100 on a Bible, you can get a pretty nice leather-bound ESV, a pretty nice leather-bound NASB 95. There's all sorts of Bibles you can get. You can get up to the $150 range, and really, if you're going to get up to $150, yeah, you're gonna find some really, really nice Bibles. Now, of course, you can pay all the way up to $400 for a Bible if you really want to. But once again, none of this really matters. Et Cepher is in the $100 range. They also have an app, and they also have an abridged app. Okay. Everything I'll be showing you today is from the abridged app. And what they mean by abridged is that not all the books that they add in their canonized version, we're going to talk about that, are available in the abridged app. Now you can get the app for $21.99 or something like that. So, so that's what the Et Cepher is. Okay. Cepher, once again, spelled with a C, not an S. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. Once again, I don't want to nitpick, but I'm going to show you why I think that this is actually kind of an intentional odd choice. And it has to do with like translation all the way through. Okay. So what is the actual text of the Et Cepher? Well, the Et Cepher is based on the KJV. So what they did was so the KJV is copywritten in England, but it's not copywritten in America. So I don't actually know what the legal ramifications are for them selling the Et Cepher in England, like in Europe. I don't know what that is. Like, I assume that the Et Cepher is available in Europe, but I also don't understand how they've gotten around copyright claims there. Maybe it's because they print in the US. I don't know. Anyway, so they've taken the KJV and then they have changed it how they see fit. Now, with that said, what the base of the text is the KJV. So if you like the old KJV, and if you like that translation, then this translation, the base of it, is actually not going to be bad. But here's the thing. They made some interesting decisions on when and where to change it. Okay. Now, before we get into all that, who's doing this? Who's behind the Et Cepher? Okay. Okay. Hang on. We got to pause real quick. John in the chat room says, I'm new. And if I can ask, what is the 36 about? It's a self-degrading joke that Rob Van Hoff, the sometimes now used to be full-time co-host of this show, and I made back in season 1, maybe season 2, when we happened to look at the live statistics and realized that 36 people were listening. We made the joke that we only have 36 listeners, and ever since then, we have said that there's only 36 listeners. Some people might come, new people might come, but that means we've lost old listeners. There's only ever 36 people who listen to this podcast, even if our numbers say that there's more. That's what the 36 means. And right now, see, I only got 17 people watching this. That's totally fine. But I think I just proved my point. There's only 36 listeners. Anyway, it was a self-degrading joke. That's what that is. Okay, let's keep going. So, who is behind the Et Cepher? Now, the main guy behind the Et Cepher is a guy named Stephen Pidgeon. Stephen Pidgeon is a lawyer. He is not a Bible scholar. Okay, now some people will say that doesn't matter. However, this is I put a link in the description of this show to my father's teaching on what version of the Bible should I read. Okay, and he goes through some good practices, some bad practices. First of all, if you're going to translate a Bible or have anything to do with translation of the Bible, one of the reasons I would never do a translation of the Bible is because I'm not good enough with the languages. Even my 1 Corinthians Bible study that I'm doing right now, I'm trying to translate as best I can, right? 1 Corinthians I'm going through, but I'm really, the truth is I'm resting on Greek scholars. I'm not a Greek scholar, right? My language, my biblical language that I work the most in is Hebrew, not Greek. And so when it comes to 1 Corinthians, I'm really looking at all these different Greek scholars and saying, okay, I'm weighing their arguments and saying, okay, this is what these people are saying. I'm going to take this. I'm making decisions, but really, I would never publish my 1 Corinthians translation as a translation of 1 Corinthians because honestly, I'm not that. I don't want to say I'm not that arrogant. I'm just not proficient in the Greek, and that's what it really takes to try to do Bible translation. Beyond this, what my dad teaches in that video lecture is that really you don't want one translator of the Bible. You want a board of scholars. And the reason why is because there is bias that gets into, right? Everybody has their theological bias. Bias is going to get into your translation. And so you want a multitude of people who know the languages so that they can kind of sharpen each other and say, no, that's not a good translation, or I think it should be like this, right? And this actually gets back to more of a, I don't know if original language translation would be the right thing to say, but it really, it keeps people accountable. Let's just say that, okay? And so if you have 50 scholars who are working on a translation and they all know the languages inside and out, and they're all debating and kind of fighting each other over translation, you're going to have something that's not as biased as a single person who just says, I'm going to translate it this way. Okay, so first of all, Stephen Pidgeon is a lawyer in Washington State. He is not a Bible scholar. He's not trained in the biblical languages. In fact, I had an online conversation with Pidgeon about 2 or 3 years ago. I asked him, I said, so, who are your Hebrew and Greek teachers? And he would not answer. I asked him 3 times in a row, well, who are your Hebrew and Greek teachers? And he just, you think that I need degrees and all this kind of stuff. Here's the thing. Anyone who's actually taken Hebrew or Greek are happy, and I mean happy, to discuss their teachers. And the reason why is because their teachers have spent a significant amount of time and poured their knowledge into their students. I can tell you exactly who my Hebrew teachers are, right? Dr. Garrett at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Dr. Oslin, Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. My father, Tim Hegg, who taught me from the time I was maybe 12, 13, all the way up until I was in my 20s. Right. I now have a person that I am once again trying to learn from when it comes to Hebrew. And so the point is that if you've taken the languages, right, my Greek teacher, Rob Van Hoff, right, the point is if you've taken biblical languages, when someone says, who's your Hebrew or Greek teacher, you don't sidestep. And so this is how I knew instantaneously that Pidgeon has never taken any language classes. Now, on the website, let's actually kick over here. On their website, this is what they say. Hang on. Now I got to get over to it. My bad. This is what they say. Our group, this is on their website, our group initially came together in 2012 during a trip to Israel. We gathered at House 57 in East Jerusalem, shown below, during the feast of, and okay, this is why I was talking about Cepher being spelled with a C. Coulthard. Now, they say tabernacles. The feast of, they're trying to say Sukkot, but I'm not sure. I read this and I was like, is this a typo? Sukkot is spelled Cukkotth for those who can't see it on screen. Coulthard. Okay, so I get the TH at the end, like some people do that, Sukkot. Okay. The KK, I get that as well. But C never says an S sound unless followed with a vowel like EI, right? So C-U-K? Okay, so then I was like, okay, maybe this is me. I did a search for booths in I was like, is there an alternate spelling in the Tanakh of Sukkot? Right? Like, is there a variant somewhere that I am unaware of? No, they just made it up. They just made this up. It's really very odd. Like, why would you spell it like that? There's no basis whatsoever. I know there are Bibles that transliterate Hebrew names transliterated, but is there a way I could read the entire Bible transliterated? I have no clue. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Just learn the Hebrew alphabet and the Greek alphabet and read it. Right? I mean, look, at some point, you got to do the work. You have to put in the work if you want to read in the original languages. Like, that's what you have to do. Instead of trying to find a Bible that is transliterated, learn the alphabet. Learn the Hebrew alphabet and start reading it in the original language. The hardest part to Hebrew, this is going to sound weird. The hardest part to Hebrew is learning the alphabet. Once you learn the alphabet and the vowels, the rest becomes a lot easier if you know how to learn. And honestly, yeah, okay, I'm not going to get into that. Okay, so back to this website. I don't know why. Like, it's just so odd. It's just set like Kukoth or Kukot. It's just, there's no rhyme or reason as to why they would do it, unless this is a typo. But the fact that they spell Cepher with a C instead of an S also makes me think that maybe this isn't a typo. Maybe they did this on purpose. Anyway, okay, let's keep going. The feast of, I'm going to say Sukkot, even because that's how it's supposed to be said. Sukkot, in anticipation of wonderful things. By the way, let's just pause. The Sukkot is spelled with a samach in Hebrew. If you don't know Hebrew, that's okay. Samach always says there's never a K or a C sound that comes from a samach. Never. There's no way you could miss this. There's no way that you could screw this up in the Hebrew. Anyway, okay. In anticipation for wonderful things to happen. And sure enough, wonderful things did happen, and Et Cepher Publishing Group was born. Okay. Once again, I don't want to nitpick on this, but at the same time, the group of people who translate the Et Cepher is never mentioned. No names are ever brought up. Now, that could be for numerous reasons. The group of people could be purely financial, right? It could be a financial backing by the people in Israel. It could be that they are a Facebook group that, gives some input like, hey, I looked at Strong's numbers today and this is what it said. That's probably more like the reality here. The idea that these people know the languages, they don't. They just don't. If they did, first of all, we wouldn't see a lot of the issues that are in the Et Cepher. That's number one. Number two, what the Et Cepher really does put forward is I don't know how to say this without being really harsh. It just puts forward a complete ignorance. There is a complete ignorance of knowledge of biblical languages in this translation. So much so that it's every time I read a passage, I'm just blown away. Every time I read a passage, I'm like, did they mean to do this? Did they mean to do this? Okay. So the other thing is that, it could be that these people might know a little bit, about the languages, but don't want their name on it. That could be the other thing. So basically, the end-all be-all of this is that since no other names are listed, we have to go on the assumption that this is just Stephen Pidgeon. That's what we have to go on the assumption of. Stephen Pidgeon has no formal training in languages whatsoever, in the biblical languages whatsoever. Otherwise, he would not be as hostile as he is when people ask. Second of all, he'd be happy to name his Hebrew and Greek teachers. Third of all, he wouldn't make some of the blatant mistakes that are seen. Let's move on. So once again, nowhere is this group of people listed. I went to frequently asked questions. Why does the Cepher have more than 66 books? And by the way, when it comes to this, let's just look real quick. What books? Let's do this. How many books? How many books does the Et Cepher, spelled weird, have? And 87 books. So from 66 to 87. Now, this is an expansion. The reason I had to look this up is because it's not even the Apocrypha. It doesn't even follow the Catholic canonized books, right? They add even more. So what do they say about this? Do they explain this? Well, yeah, they try to. And this once again is telling. We haven't even gotten to the book itself. It gets this is going to get a lot more interesting in a few seconds. Hang on just a second. This is what they say. We have heard the objection as to books canonized, and when he says we, it has to be I, right? I have heard the objection as to books canonized and books not canonized, which begs the question, what is canonizing a book all about anyway? Yeah, that is a good question. The Council of Nicaea was the first to create a canon. This is definitely not true. The Council of Nicaea had nothing to do with canonizing books. So, just from the outset, it shows that this is not correct. This shows a lack of understanding of history. There were 3 councils that talked about canon. There's lists of canons coming out from different groups, right? And all of this, this can be researched easily. My father wrote a book, How We Got Our Bible, from Text of Translation by Paul Wagner. Really good book on canonization, right? So the point is that this just shows a lack of understanding when it comes to canonization as a whole. Who were the translators of the Et Cepher? And this is once again. He says that. Listen how telling this is. The translations were accomplished through Strong's Concordance. For those who haven't seen our videos on this show before, Strong's is not a lexicon. A lexicon is a word for a theology, it's a fancy word for a dictionary, okay? Strong's is not a dictionary. It's not a lexicon. It's not, it is a mirror of the KJV. It's the KJV holding a mirror up to itself. All it does is tell you how the translators of the KJV translated a word. It doesn't tell you what the word means in its entirety or anything like that. So this once again shows that there's really a misunderstanding of even what Strong's is, right? And a lot of people have this misunderstanding, so it's understandable, but you shouldn't have this misunderstanding if you're trying to translate a Bible or if you're trying to put out a translation of a Bible. That's the point. You should know better. You should at least know better on this. Okay. So they include the book of Jasher. Now, we've talked about this on this show before, but I think that this is important to see, okay? So you have to know a little bit of the history of this, but the book of Jasher that is referenced in the Bible has been lost, right? And there's been a lot of forgeries that have come. I think there's been 3 complete forgeries that have come after the fact. They have chosen the book of Jasher that was put out, Cepher Jasher, which was put out by a Jewish, in the same time as Jewish mysticism was really on the rise. All right. So this is what they say. I chose this because I'll show you why I chose this quote. According to Derek Coatsey at academia.edu, the book of Jasher actually has a Hebrew text called Cepher Jasher, which was first printed in Naples in 1552 and has a traceable history from there. Okay, let's pause for a second. I tracked down Derek Coatsey's article on academia.edu. He excoriates this as being And let's just read some of what he has to say real quick. They basically go through this history that Coetzee puts out, right? Coetzee says this is like the made up history that has been given, in the book itself or whatever. And this is what he says. A little bit of a long quote, but after he gives this fake history, he says there is no support for this story. By the way, this is the article that they quoted, so I don't understand. There's no support for this story. And to quote a Venetian rabbi, Leon Modena, at the time of its printing, quote, "Behold, it," that is the Zohar, "is like Cepher Hayasher, which they printed without my knowledge and without the knowledge of the sages here in Venice about 20 years ago. Although I removed the fantasies and falsehoods from it, that it is the Cepher Hayasher mentioned in Scripture, there are still those who claim that it was discovered during the time of the destruction. But who can stop those who imagine in their minds whatever they wish?" And that's an end quote from this rabbi. Going on with Coetzee. Medina was a scholar who proved the Zohar, basis of the Kabbalah teaching, as a fraudulent fiction of the human imagination and not fit for spiritual scholarship, including this particular manuscript in that discussion. In addition to this, modern scholars, such as Joseph Don, professor of Kabbalah at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, have analyzed the language of the printed piece and found that it fits the Hebrew of Naples at that time. As early as 1840, the Hebrew was recognized as being, quote, "composed in the purest rabbinical Hebrew with large intermixture of the biblical idiom." I'm almost done with this quote, but hang on, he's not done. This 1625 Hebrew version was translated by Moses Samuel and published in 1840 under Mordecai Emanuel Noah's publication firm and name. And it is this manuscript that is known as the Book of Jasher today. In actual fact, the real Book of Jasher mentioned in the Bible has never been found, and the 1840 version has been proven now to be a commentary and midrash written in Europe in the late 15th century, containing Jewish popular tales which enrich the Bible whilst being historically unprovable or incorrect. Okay, so this is it's a little disingenuous, I think, that they try to quote this guy, and then listen to what they say. A Venetian rabbi, they basically give the same history that Coetzee gives, and they say a Venetian rabbi, Liam Medina, denounced the book this is the Et Cepher, by the way, we're going back to the Et Cepher, denounced the book at the time of its printing because the form of the Hebrew used in the text was similar to that found in the Zohar. He claimed that the oral history of the book was merely vain imaginings. Of course, one should remember that rabbis also denounced the New Testament for the exact same reasons. That's not true. That's not true. That's not why the New Testament is rejected. The New Testament is rejected because Yeshua claims to be God. And beyond that, I would be shocked if Mr. Pigeon has done work in the rabbinical texts of the Talmud to understand that Yeshua is mentioned in the Talmud time and time again. So, all of that to say, this just shows, once again, we are on... Why did I go through all this? I went through all this to show you that, number one, we're not working with a scholarship team. We're working with a single person who doesn't know the original languages, okay? Number two, books are added, and it's because someone wants it to be added. There's no historical or scholarly rigor put into, hey, I think this book is original because, right? It's just, I want this book to be original. It's original. That's it. Okay, so now let's go to the actual text of this book itself. Okay, let me go back to my notes. Okay, it's based on the KJV. They changed a lot, but not the things they should have. Okay, let's go to Hebrews. This is interesting. I'm going to show you, so we'll get to John 1 here in a few seconds. I'm going to show you just a couple of things. So this is, okay, let me kick back here real quick. When you pick up a Bible, what's the first things you do? You go to a couple of passages, right? There's a couple of passages I always go to. John 1 is usually one of them. Hebrews 8 and 9 is another one of them, right? I want to see how they translated, maybe Genesis 1. There's other places, right? Everybody kind of has Galatians 3, or I'm sorry, well, Galatians 3, but also Romans 3, right? I want to see how they do some work in Romans 3, so on and so forth, right? So there are these things, there are certain passages everybody kind of wants to go to see. And there's no difference here with the Et Cepher, right? So what did I do? Well, the very first thing I did was opened up to Hebrews, right? Now, once again, the translation of the Et Cepher, quote, translation is the KJV, right? They based it on the KJV. They took the KJV Bible and then they just like butchered it however they wanted to. And when I say butchered it, I'm not being mean here. Let me show you what I mean. So the KJV, and we could read the KJV here, but the KJV reads the same way that others read as well. So, for instance, it seems like they fix some things, but it's arbitrary. What do I mean? Okay, so can you see this? No, you cannot. Let's go here. Okay, so. In 8:7 and 8:13, right? They don't have the word covenant here, or they do have the word covenant here. Okay, so in 8:7 it says, "For the first had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second." Normally it says, "For the first covenant had been faultless," right? The translation actually adds the word covenant. The same is true in 13, right? In that he says new, and normally it adds covenant. He has made the first old. Now that which it decays, waxes old, is ready to vanish. Now let's go one more chapter to 9. Now for some reason here they didn't take it out. Then truly the first covenant had also ordinances of divine service and worldly sanctuary. It just seems arbitrary to me. Like, why would you? Why, right? Let's go to another place. So it seems like if you're going to fix a translation, why would you not take out the translated inclusion of covenant here in 9:1? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's go to another one. Now this one was really okay. We have to, before we go to John 1, we have to actually talk about Et Theology. Okay. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible because I know a lot of people have heard this. So people today, especially in the Hebrew roots movement, have come up with what's called Et Theology. Et Theology says that within biblical Hebrew, okay, so we're talking about the Tanakh now, the Old Testament. Within biblical Hebrew, there is a sign of a direct object. Now, you don't need to know Hebrew. I'll try to explain this as quickly as possible. Basically, word order in biblical Hebrew doesn't necessarily matter all the time, right? So you could say Caleb hit the ball, or you could say Caleb was hit by the ball, okay? Now, how do you know what the object is in Hebrew? How do you know if the object is Caleb, that is, he was hit with the ball, or Caleb hit the ball? Okay, Caleb was hit by the ball, or Caleb hit the ball. Okay, in Hebrew, the way that you'd know that is there is this sign of the direct object. It's not translated. It just shows you what the object is. It's Aleph and Tav. That's how you spell it, Aleph and Tav. Okay, so what people do in the Hebrew roots movement is they go to Revelation. Now, in Revelation, it says he is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, right? He is the Alpha and Omega. This is what they're really going to focus on, Alpha and Omega. Now, there's a couple of things that need to be noted about this Revelation passage. First of all, it's a retelling of what Isaiah 45, right? He's just taking the Isaiah 45, quoting it, and then expanding on it, and he expands it with, I am the Alpha and the Omega. What people in the Hebrew roots movement want to do is they want to say, well, it was originally written in Hebrew. That's not true. We know for a fact that Revelation was written in Greek, not Hebrew. So first of all, they have to say it was written in Hebrew, which is not true. And then they have to say, well, the letters here would not be Alpha and Omega. That is the first letter and the last letter. And this is the point that the writer John is trying to make, right? That Yeshua is the beginning, the end. He's all encompassing. That's the point. They want to take it and they want to say, well, no, it's actually, he would have, since it was written in Hebrew, which it wasn't, it actually would have been Aleph and Tav, because that's the first and the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And then they say, well, okay, well, if Aleph and Tav, if we put those together, what do we get? We get Et, that's a sign of the direct object. Okay, so Sign of the direct object, interestingly, is not only, Aleph and Tav is not only the sign of the direct object. This is where it falls apart, okay? What they want to say is anytime you see a sign of the direct object, it's actually a sign that Yeshua should be interpreted somewhere in this passage. Now, there's signs of direct object all over the place. The other problem is that the sign of the direct object is not, it's not specific to biblical Hebrew, like to the Bible. So, the grocery lists that have been found in the dumps in archaeological excavations have Aleph and Tav on them. And that doesn't mean that Yeshua is there. That's number one. Number two, Aleph and Tav is not simply the sign of the direct object. It's also the word with, okay? And it's also the second feminine personal pronoun, you. And they're not going to use that same theology when et is used as the word with or when it is used as a second feminine singular personal pronoun, you. So this already falls apart. Now, before we go to John 1, I'll show you what I'm talking about. First of all, let's go to, oh man, I mean, this is so bad. The person who did the work on this pigeon didn't realize that in Exodus 6:3, and let's go there real quick. We'll get back to the et because it's all wrapped up into one. Exodus 6:3. Let me kick over, I'm sorry, to this. Okay, so we're going to go Exodus 6:3. Okay, so he doesn't realize that he doesn't know what a Hebrew preposition is. To. Okay, he doesn't know that the Hebrew, he doesn't know what the preposition is. So he translates it. This is just so odd. In 6:3. Okay, and I appeared unto. Now, the Hebrew preposition el means to. Now, there's a different vowel spelling for El Shaddai, the name of God. But he doesn't know that. So instead, here in 6:3, he translates the preposition. And I appeared unto El Avraham, unto El Yitzchak, and unto El Yaakov by El Shaddai. This is, I mean, honestly, it's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing. He just doesn't know what a Hebrew preposition is, okay? Now, what's interesting about this is that he then, in 4, he translates one of the ets, okay? And I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan et the land of their pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers. But here's the thing is that it's just very inconsistent. So not only does he, okay, and I'll describe what I mean by inconsistent. First of all, he translates the preposition in 3. In 4, there are multiple ets, but he doesn't tell you that. And let me kick over here to my Hebrew text. Let's see here. I'm not in my Hebrew text. I was doing work on Jeremiah on Jeremiah and Hebrews because I was trying to figure that one out too. Let's go to a Hebrew text and let's go to Exodus 6:3. Okay. So in 4, it says, Vagam ha kimoti et, see this word right here? Can you see it on the screen? Yes, you can. Okay, see this word right? I want to make sure that, yes, okay, you can see it. Perfect. So, see this word right here, et briti. So this word et, he doesn't tell you. So, okay, once again, the Et Cepher Bible, what he's attempting to do is he's trying to show you places where et is put into the text, but it's just very random. He doesn't tell you every place. He just does it where he wants to put it in. And this is a perfect example in 6:4. So it says, Vagam kimoti et briti. So et briti, itam latet lahem et eretz. So you have 2 ets here, right? And then you have another one right here, 8 eretz. So there's 3 ets in this entire, I don't care because I don't believe in et theology, right? But wouldn't you expect that the person who is doing this would be consistent? If you think that every time an et shows up, it is somehow a signal that the Messiah is there, wouldn't you, shouldn't the person who's buying the Et Cepher Bible and thinking that they are being alerted every time that the et happens, wouldn't they expect that they're all shown? I would think so, but they're not. He just randomly chooses when he's going to show you what the et is. And let's go now to John, right? Hang on just a second. Let's go now to John 1. This one really broke my brain a little bit. And the reason it broke my brain is because I just could not figure out what the theological, I just couldn't figure it out. Okay. John 1. Okay. So, see if I can explain this one. And you're going to be right up here at the top. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Et Elohim. Okay, now, when I saw this, I was like, hang on, though. John is written in Greek. It's not written in Hebrew. And even if you believe it was written in Hebrew, there are no early manuscripts. I think that the Evan Bohan and the Munster Doodle, Munster is the Doodle. The Doodle might only be Matthew, right? One of them is only Matthew. But the point is that the earliest manuscripts that we have of John in Hebrew are the Middle Ages, right? Like the 1200s. There's no early manuscript of John in Hebrew. It's all in Greek, right? So first of all, he's putting in et in a language that doesn't have et in it, right? Okay, so he does this twice in John 1, which is really interesting. He said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Et Elohim, and Elohim was the Word. The same was in the beginning with Et Elohim. Now, I thought, okay, let's go to the Greek text, right? And so I went to the Greek text in John 1. And if you see over here, I thought maybe, okay, ton theon. So this is the article ton in biblical Greek. Theon is God. And then kai theos in halagos, right? Okay, so, and then I thought, okay, well, down here, ton theon we have it again right down here. This is the same article, right? Same form, everything. Ton theon, right? So this is in 1 and 2 of John. And I thought, okay, maybe what he did was every time that ton theon in that exact construct, he translates an et there. So I went to other places in John where that exact construct is used in the Greek, and he doesn't give you et anywhere else, right? It's not there. And so I thought, okay, well, he just put it in randomly, right? And then I thought, okay, what if I'm trying to give this guy as much grace as possible, right? I'm trying to be like, oh, okay, there has to be some reason, right? Why he just put et into a Greek manuscript, like a Greek text somewhere, right? There has to be a reason. So what do? I go to a modern Hebrew translation of John. Here we are. Okay. And let me get over here to my Hebrew. Okay, so you can see you see my cursor? Yes, you can. I'm actually going to move this over. Hang on just a second. I'm trying to get it so you can see this as best as possible. Let's go here. Okay. You're not going to need to see more than this. Okay, so Breshit haya hadavar Hadavar haya et ha-Elohim. Let's see if I can. Are you seeing the highlight? Yeah. Okay. So see right there. So we see et ha-Elohim right here. And I'm like, oh, okay. He used a modern Hebrew translation and he just put in et, right? Well, he did maybe right here, but look at this. Can you see the other one? In verse 2, ha-Elohim, there is no et before it. Hang on, let me move it over so that everyone can see what I'm talking about. here. There it is. There is no et in the modern Hebrew translation. So you have an et here, right? But there is no et here. It's just arbitrary. He's just picking and choosing when he wants to put et into the translation. Honestly, I think that this is a little bit misleading to the whole thing's misleading, but I think that this is actually like misleading to the people who think that they're going to have the et put into the text at all times, right? Like if you buy a Bible and you think, oh, well, every time the sign of the direct object shows up, I'm going to see it in my English translation. That's not what's happening. And then he just arbitrarily puts it into a Greek text in one. Now, he does, like, there's other things, right? Like, so back to, okay, in Hebrews, once again, he uses the word renewed covenant. Now, in the Greek, it's not renewed at all. It's new covenant, right? And he's quoting Jeremiah. He's quoting Jeremiah 31:31 and following. Okay. Now, I'm trying to give Pigeon as much grace here as possible. So he translates it, he changes the KJV to renewed covenant, okay? But this, once again, is arbitrary because the Greek is clearly new covenant. So the Septuagint, the person who's quoting the Septuagint wants the word to be new, not renewed, right? And so that's how they put it into the book of Hebrews. Okay. Some might say, well, it could be renewed in Jeremiah 31:31 and following in the Hebrew. I actually disagree with this. I don't think it is renewed. I think it's clearly new. But I mean, I suppose I could give a little bit of grace on this one. Like, he has a theological bent that he wants to put in there. In the Greek, it's clearly new covenant. It's not renewed, though. And these are the kind of things that are popping up. This kind of stuff is everywhere. It's throughout the entire book. I haven't even gotten into the names. So I'm not going to get into this. David Wilber did a really good job about talking about the name Yeshua versus Yahusha. The name Yahusha was, according to what I've studied, I think the name Yahusha was originally created by Lou White in the 1980s, maybe the 90s. Okay, Lou White comes along. He owns a hippie head shop, right, that sells like bongs and whatnot. And this is not a joke. You can't. I'm not joking. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so sad. Lou White comes along. He makes this book called Fossilized Customs, right? And Lou White and I have gone back and forth before, but Fossilized Customs is the reason that everyone in the 80s and 90s essentially jumped on the bandwagon of every single thing is pagan, right? Everything's pagan. He's responsible for making like famous the idea of Jesus really means Jesus, or, God is pagan and all these kind of things, right? So he makes this book, Fossilized Customs. Come to find out, it's all based on Two Babylons by Hislop, which was discounted as soon as Hislop published. And Hislop is known to have just literally made stuff up. He just made stuff up and put it into his book, and then Lou White took it and regurgitated it in his book, Fossilized Customs. He made up the word Yahusha. That's not found anywhere. And he also came up with the name Yahuwah for Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. These are literally made up names. They're made up. They're not attested to in the Hebrew anywhere. And the name Yeshua, as David Wilber masterfully points out, the name Yeshua is clearly attested to in the Masoretic text. It's attested to a lot of times in the Tanakh, right? But there's this is one thing that Wilber doesn't bring up. There is a theological element to this as well. So I'll give you just a couple of references here. The name Yahoshua, which comes from Hoshea. So Hoshea meaning salvation in one form, right? And then Moses adds on the word Yah to it, and so Yahoshua becomes Joshua's name. What does this name mean? It means God will save. This is important, okay? I actually think that this is very important. But the name Yeshua is a shortened form and means salvation. It's a name form of salvation. Okay, so within the Tanakh, they use the name Yeshua numbers of times, especially in Ezra and Nehemiah. I mean, numerous times. Okay, they use the name Yeshua, and it's spelled out for you. It's specific. The name Yah is not in Yeshua. Okay, why? Because they've dropped the Yah, and now they've just used the name form of salvation, Yeshua. Right? Yeshua is salvation, and they use Yeshua, which is the name form of Yeshua. Okay, so and you can like Yeshua T, my salvation. Right? You can see this within the Psalms. Yeshua T is used all the time when David says, like, my salvation. Anyway, so why is this important? And I'll tell you why. It is a theological element. Okay? It's paralleled. Okay, hang on. When the angel comes, I wrote a couple notes here so that I could say this right. When the angel comes and tells Joseph that Mary will have a child, he says, she will bear a son, and you shall call his name Yeshua. This is obviously in Greek, so it's Jesus, right? For he will save his people from their sins. Matthew 1:21. This is important because he does not say, for God will save his people from their sins, but that Yeshua will save them from their sins. This is paralleled when the Pharisees say that only God can forgive a person's sins in Mark 2:7 and Luke 5:21. It says in Mark 2:7, why does this man speak like that? He is blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone? So there is a theological element. The reason that his name is not Yahoshua, Joshua, God will save, but the God part is dropped, and his name comes from Yeshua. It's Yeshua, salvation, is because it's a declaration of deity. It's a declaration that Yeshua is God on earth, that he's the one who saves. He's the saving. The reason that the word God is dropped off of this name is because Yeshua is God. He's the one doing the saving. This is the theological element. And as soon as you have somebody who doesn't understand that, this is why it really bugs me when people will say, well, it's Yahshua, and they put a Y-A-H. That bugs me, not because I'm a sacred namer. It's not because I think that God doesn't hear your prayers if you use Yahshua. It's because theologically, the apostolic scriptures put Yeshua forward as God. And his name reflects that because the name Yah is dropped and Yeshua is the one who is doing the saving. He is Emmanuel. He's God with us. And so these people the people who try to attach Yah to the beginning of it don't realize that there are theological reasons why we want it to say Yeshua and why God wants it to say Yeshua and not Yahshua. But then you have someone like Pigeon or like Lou White who comes along and says, oh, well, I don't know anything about Hebrew, but I'm going to make up a name. There's no Hebrew basis whatsoever for the name Yahusha. Literally, none. It's literally an invention of Lou White's head. And then, of course, someone like Stephen Pigeon picks it up and runs with it. Why does any of this matter? Does any of this matter? And I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. And like I said at the very beginning of this show, I know people who are, they love the Lord. They've bought into the Et Cepher. What the Et Cepher shows is extreme ignorance. It shows extreme ignorance from Stephen Pigeon. It shows extreme ignorance of biblical languages. And what he's done is he's made a version of the Bible that perpetuates extreme ignorance. When a person comes to me and they use the name Yahusha instead of Yeshua, it's not even like Yahshua. They're saying Yahusha. When they say Yahusha, I know that they have either read a lot of Lou White or they've picked up an Et Cepher. No matter which direction you go with that, I know that they are coming from a place of extreme ignorance. They haven't done the work. They haven't done any work to figure these things out. They're just buying things hook, line, and sinker from internet warriors, right? From internet scholars. If a person walks in and has an Et Cepher Bible, if that's what they're carrying, I know that this comes from a place of extreme ignorance. This isn't their fault. I'm not saying that it's their fault that they have bought into extreme ignorance. What I'm saying is that it tells me that they are ignorant about these things. Now, that doesn't mean that their heart isn't right. It doesn't mean that they don't love the Lord. It doesn't mean anything like that. It doesn't mean that they don't have faith or anything like that. It means that we're going to have to work to unwrap from the ignorance that they have bought into. And usually what comes along with this is it's just the tip of an iceberg. And the reason why is because under the surface of this water, what we have is an expansion of canon. We have an ignorance about canonization and how the books of the Bible came to be in our Bible. We have a ignorance about manuscript history and things like Jasher, right? As we already looked at. It's very odd. And Tina Tina and Rob in the chat room say Stern adds random Yiddish terms in the CJV. Yeah, I think isn't. And yeah, this is true. Look, there are versions of the Bible that do this, right? And honestly, one of the versions, I'm not like 100% you should get this version, but if you want a version of the Bible that has that tries to put original names in and stuff like that, transliterate some stuff for you, get a Tree of Life version. At least it's done by a group of scholars who actually know the language. Right? I mean, at least they know the language. Are there problems with the Tree of Life version? Yeah, there are a couple problems with it. There are a couple of passages that I turn to and I'm like, oh man, made right in Romans? No, come on, that's not, there are things in the Tree of Life version that I'm like, oh, but if I had to choose between the Tree of Life version, if I had to choose between the Tree of Life version and a lot of other English translations, I'm taking the Tree of Life version every time, right? So, for me, it would probably go NASB 95 or ESV, and then, maybe the newer NIVs, although that's shaky. And that's going to be on the same level as new NIV and net version I'll use in study. Tree of Life version is probably above those versions, but below the ESV and the NASB in my mind, in terms of readability, right? The Et Cepher is literally, here's the Message, and I think the Et Cepher's below it. I know that sounds awful. I think I'd rather take a paraphrase of the Bible than the Et Cepher. That's how bad the Et Cepher is. It's really bad. And I think what it does is it makes people dumber. I know that's harsh, but I think that the Et Cepher makes people more ignorant when it comes to Bible study. I think the Message does too, so maybe they're on the same plane. Maybe the Message and the Et Cepher are right here. But honestly, I still think the Message might win out. So that's my thoughts on the Et Cepher Bible. Honestly, I don't think I've heard another quote from David Wilber that I was just like, yes, more than the one that he did in his Yeshua versus Yahusha video that just came out recently. He said the Et Cepher is I'm paraphrasing now because I forget the exact quote, but it was something like the Et Cepher is total garbage. Absolutely. It's total garbage. It deserves to be in the trash heap. Do not buy it. Buy something else. If you have an Et Cepher, throw it away. Eat the $100 that you spent on it. Get yourself an ESV or an NASB 95. Get yourself a Tree of Life version. Okay. Throw the Et Cepher away. Honestly, it's bad. It's bad. It's so bad. We could do a whole show probably on canonization as well and why but just the fact that they would include a 16th century forgery of Jasher, which is a Jewish mystical text. Oh man, it's so bad. All right. So, TLV is the life I'm currently reading. I think the version you're currently reading, not my favorite. I do like the New Jerusalem version, but no one really knows about that one. I'm currently reading. I'm just looking at some of these fossilized customs. Never liked using a version with only one translator. Yeah, look. I have my reader Bible. It's an ESV, but ultimately, if I'm going to study the Bible, I'm going to have original languages and I'm going to have a multitude I have a net Bible. I say this all the time. I have a net Bible specifically for the notes. The notes are worth their weight in gold. So anyway, all right, that's going to do it for the Et Cepher Bible. If you have an Et Cepher and you're offended by what I've said today, I apologize that you're offended. However, I hope that it moves you. This kind of review moves you to rethink your choice of Bible versions. There are ministries, quote unquote ministries, and YouTube channels online that use the Et Cepher exclusively. If you are following a teacher who uses the Et Cepher, that is a red flag of red flags. Honestly, I would say cut ties completely with that teacher and find somebody else, because your teacher, if a person that is teaching you is using the Et Cepher, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. They just don't. All right, that's going to do it for me. Next week, the long-awaited, right? Next week, I'm going to start it might be a series. It depends. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it all in one or not, but we're going to do one law theology. Back to the basics, one law theology. And we're going to walk through one law theology. If you want me to talk about anything specific, let me know. And not just for one law theology. If you want me to talk about anything in general, let me know. See Hegg at TorahResource.com, CHEGG at TorahResource.com. You can also call our comment line, 253-465-3205. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I know it sounds weird, but it really does help. All right. I hope that this conversation has done at least one thing. That's to glorify our great God and Savior, Yeshua the Messiah. Why? I think you know why, because Messiah matters.